Gandalf can never figure out that Saruman's gonna be a bad guy. I mean, do these look like the homes of any decent people you know?
Your love of the halfling's leaf has clearly slowed your mind.
Oh, stop hushing my buzz! The Black Riders are a little hard to decide between two. I mean, the Jackson ones were cool, especially how you never see their faces. But the Bashki ones were also pretty intimidating, ranging from fragile, creepy folk to tough soldiers of darkness, almost as if their powers veered in and out at times. Though again, they do go a bit over the top at moments. Oh, get the Tylenol. Also in the Jackson version, I thought the way they looked when you put the ring on was a little goofy. In fact, I never liked the way things looked when you put the ring on. It's like a third grader went nuts with the smudge tool on Photoshop. In the Bashki film, they don't really change, but you can tell you've entered a different world. Everything's slower, the color changes, it's almost like a different state of being. But for me, the big deciding point is the Lord of Darkness itself, Sauron. And, believe it or not, I actually like the Bashki one better. Simply because you never see him. The most we get is a guy in a Viking hat, which isn't very intimidating, but everything else is kept a mystery. You never see him, but you can always feel his presence simply by the way people talk about him.
Under the power of Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor.
Look at the scene with the eye in the fountain. You can't even tell that it is an eye, but the fear that fills everybody is still present.
Do not touch the water. He is looking for you. The door is closed. If your quest fails, then nothing can stand against him and we are defenseless.
Now let's look at the Jackson film. It's just too overblown. The eye looks more like a lizard's eye, which indicates Sauron is more of a monster than he is a man. And even his costume seems over the top. There's just nothing subtle about him. When I think of the Lord of Darkness, I think of something sneaky, conniving, and quiet. Not loud, bombastic, and in your face. I always saw Sauron as a plotter, someone who's waiting to strike in the shadows, where this guy seems like the Hulk's metal pincushion.
Sauron smash! Oh, sword mean! Sauron have explosive diarrhea! Sauron go boom!
So, like I said before, tough call, but seeing how less is usually more, I have to go with the Bashki film. Because let's face it, no one can bring the dread and feelings of doom than the guy who directed Cool World. Point goes to Bashki.
Oh, hooray!
Shut up! Well, that's all fine and good, but how can they beat the shit out of each other? Here's the best action scenes. Now both these films are unique in how they do their action scenes. Jackson's movies are a little bit more acrobatic and inventive, where Bashki's is a little bit more gritty and bloody. It's interesting too how the Jackson films do the Battle of Helm's Deep in all blue, and the Bashki film does the battle in all red. I don't even know why it turns all red, it just looks really cool. In another flip-flop, where the Bashki film has little build-up but a lot of payoff, the Jackson film has a lot of build-up but little payoff. What do I mean by this? Well, in the Bashki version there's a real feeling of suspense and tension. I mean, when someone gets stabbed, you really felt like they're getting stabbed. In the Jackson one, they tempt death just a few too many times. I mean, they literally jump into the middle of an army of orcs, not once, not twice, but 3 times! And not once do they ever get a scratch on them. Mosh pit! I guess I shouldn't defend the Bashki film too much, though. I mean, look when they fire the arrows. The numbnuts don't even move! I'm far too proud to be searching for cover.
I like this place. There is good rock here.
Good rock that we won't be taking the least bit advantage of.
Message for you, that.
Now, of course, The Return of the King has some of the best action scenes ever, but since Bashki never made it that far, I really don't count it. But still, the action in the Jackson films really are better. They're more flashy, more creative, and more energized. I would have have liked to have seen it a little bit more grisly and realistic, but then again, it is a fantasy, so I guess anything goes. Point goes to Jackson.
Then you know nothing.
So once again it comes down to story. Which one had the better plot, the better pacing, and the better delivery? Let's take story for the win! It is interesting how both Bashki and Jackson end their films at the exact same point. They win the Battle of Helm's Deep, and Gollum leads Sam and Frodo to Shelob. Even though in the book, Helm's Deep is in the middle and they already met up with Shelob.
He could let her do it.
She might help. Yes.
And again, the Jackson film has the advantage that it has 2 films to explain the story in, where Bashki only has 1. Because of this, the Bashki film suffers. Characters can't be fleshed out like they should, and some characters just disappear altogether. Arwen never makes an appearance, and Eowyn I don't even think ever gets a line. She just stands there.
My sister-daughter, Eowyn, my only loyal kin, since her brother has disobeyed my commands.
Unfortunately, she's a mute. But the Jackson film at times seems a bit rushed too. Like, I never did enjoy the editing in the first film. It seemed way too fragmented.
Half the Shire's been invited.
Regrettably.
He's up to something.
Oh, really?
All right, then, keep your secrets.
I like talking in sentences without any pauses, don't you? Yes, I do. I like it a lot indeed. Haha! And to Bashki's credit, for all the scenes he had to cut, the scenes it does keep in are often very quiet and usually allow for a lot of atmosphere, which I think in a lot of ways is closer to the books. Take for example when Gimli finds out the dwarves in the mines of Moria have all been destroyed. Here's the Jackson version.
Here lies Balin. It's as I feared.
And now here's the Bashki version.
Yesterday, Balin, Lord of Moria, fell. An orc shot him from behind a stone.
He doesn't scream, he doesn't yell, he just slowly walks away to be by himself. That's a lot more powerful. But to be fair, Jackson's film has a lot of powerful scenes too, many of which weren't even focused on that much in the book. Like Arwen's debate about choosing immortal life is really looked into and analyzed.
You will linger on in darkness and in doubt.
There's even a few subtle scenes as well. Like in the Bashki film, Frodo makes a big speech about how they probably never get back.
I reckon we got enough left to see us to this Mount Doom. But after that, I don't know.
Oh, Sam, friend of friends. After that, if the ring goes into the fire and we're at hand, after that, dear Sam, just to get there. Just to get there.
Yet in the Jackson film, it's literally just summed up in a look.
You go ahead and eat that, Mr. Frodo. I've rationed it. There should be enough. For what? The journey home.
That look alone seems to say everything. And as the films went on, they did get progressively better and better, taking their time with the story and not feeling as rushed as before. So, while I have to admit it's not really a close call, there are a lot of elements in the Bashki film that are not only subtle, but really work well. There's a lot of over-the-top moments, sure, and some scenes don't really make sense, but what they do get right, they get really right. So, even though this is probably a surprise to no one, the film that really is better is the Peter Jackson versions, the superior movies. So there you go, Peter Jackson versus Ralph Bashki. Though I do feel bad I'm not able to compare Return of the King to anything. Oh, wait a minute! The Rankin-Bass version! That's right, they did Return of the King! Well, I'll just compare those two then.
There's a way. There's a way. There's a way.
Jackson. I'm the Nostlgia Critic, I remember it, so you don't have to.